We need it done this year.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Mike.
I'm Andrew.
Dan.
And this is the Board Game Rundown. Today we're going to review Dice Realms. This game is designed by Tom Lehman and Rio Grande Games. Rio Grande?
Grande.
I like to say Grande.
If you're at Taco Bell.
Yeah, right. So Dice Realms to me is like if somebody said, oh, Dice Forge, that's cute.
Right.
Let's ramp it up.
Let's make it a Civ-Builder.
Right. So basically what you're doing is you are simultaneously, everybody's rolling their die all at the same time. You're resolving your die faces. And the first player is indicated by this lovely red die here, which is chock full of mostly bad things. There's a couple good things on there. Then you're gonna roll your die. You're gonna resolve the red die. If it's winter, which means that it's got the snowflake on it, which means you're paying wheat or grain to feed your workers, which is 1 per die. And then you've got the option to re-roll one of your dice for free. And then you can spend re-rolls after that. Once you've settled on your final die faces, then you're going to go through and resolve all of that. So that could be either by gaining your victory points, gaining your grain, getting money. Money does not carry over, so you need to spend it every round. And they make it very easy to spend, whether you're spending it on upgrades, buying new dice, repairing dice, getting re-rolls, or even getting the nice little twisty guy here that'll let you set your die to whatever face you want it to be. So pretty handy to have. Interesting thing with this game is when you upgrade your die, you can upgrade or you can side grade, right? So you can go from a level 0 green up to a level 2 green for 1. Now to go from 1 pip to 4 pips, though, that's going to cost you 3 upgrades because it's 1 upgrade per pip. You can side grade for a like level, right? So one upgrade.
Like leveled. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you could change your green to a town over here in case you need more defense. A smith if you want upgrades. That's really basically how the game is played, bare bones. What's interesting is they have a recommended setup where they would tell you what 5 tiles to use.
Mike.
Or you can do what we did the second time we played, where you draw 5 tiles out of the bag randomly, and then you build.
There are loads of tiles in
Yeah,
there, by the
loads
way.
of tiles.
Yep.
Lots of options.
And
then-
some tiles force other tiles to be out, which is really interesting.
Right, which is why I was saying 5 tiles and we've got 6, is because the Saboteur gives you the blacksmith also.
Yep. You'll see adds blacksmith. Here I am. So
And the reason is because the Saboteur destroys your dice, so you
The
have to have
blacksmith
some
can
sort of
fix it.
mechanic to fix it, or you would be rolling faceless
deep.
dice.
Oh, yeah.
Hence the blacksmith fixing up all the stuff the Saboteur ruined.
Right. Basically, yeah, that's how it's played. We're not going to go through each die face and what every single thing does because, oh my God.
But
Yeah, dude.
there's theme in these colors. Like, the greens are all victory point based. The yellows are all grain based. The oranges give you money to buy stuff with. Your towns kind of defend what the red die do, and the purples are focused on your upgrading.
yeah,
so
no, honestly, the iconography and the colorization, all that, it's fantastic.
Very
job.
even the
straightforward.
little blip system. I mean,
Yep.
that was helpful in itself as
And,
well.
Sure.
and Bob's not here, but our resident colorblind, guy, there's iconography even on the bottom of the die faces, which tell
Yes.
you what kind of tile or what kind of die it
Right.
is.
Well, before we go too far into components, endgame.
Good question. We'll save. Well, okay, so the game will end when one of your resource pools runs out, whether it is wheat, victory points, or even the negative victory point tiles. There is a suggested or a common pool setup. It's not even suggested setup. It is the setup right here, and it tells you what each player starts with. Yep. So let's now go into components.
Okay.
What's in the box?
I really like how chunky these dice are.
Yeah.
I mean, these feel good to roll. They really do.
Yeah.
I also like, and I made fun because they give you like 15 of these in the box. And you only need 1 per player, but they gave you a little shovel to dig out your
Pick it out.
faces
Yeah.
and then grab a new one.
And if you keep your thumb over it when you pop it out, you're less likely to shoot it across the room.
which is what Andrew did his very first attempt.
Yep.
It
And
went
it-
Up in
back
the
there,
air, over.
here somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think we've found it to this day.
It's gone.
To this day.
To this day.
Which was
To-
earlier
I-
today.
I think I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but for Rio Grande Games to trust the funness of this game, there are so many components.
There's a
There
ton.
are so many
Which
components.
explains the higher price point on this than
Yeah.
than some.
But
right.
these trays do an excellent job of organizing everything and making it to where it's easy to find where everything is.
And this
Yeah.
isn't just purely components here, but it is the tray. So not only does it store everything in a really easy to organize way and everything, but it feeds perfectly into the gameplay mechanics of how you upgrade stuff. Is things instantly go back to the tray and out of the tray and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so for how many pieces there are and how many different slots, the cleanup is really not that bad. You just have to reset the base dice,
Yeah.
and that's it.
And it even tells you 1 pip die are all in this row.
Right.
Oh,
And it
cool. I
upgrades
didn't even
up,
see that.
Upgrades up.
Very nice.
So, I mean, they
Yeah,
do.
so you're kind of regularly digging out your 1, tossing in here, replacing it with a 2,
Sure.
and all right, I'm going to upgrade my 3, so and
And
it's
if you-
all right there
if
for
you
you.
use these, if you had the bat damage, we didn't. I didn't even think about
Didn't
that.
come
but
out.
the- but when
Oh,
the,
that
when
would
the,
solve
when
that
your die faces.
unweighted die thing I was talking about.
When your die,
Oh,
when you have
yeah.
a damaged die face,
Okay, there you go.
pop that on there.
We were concerned if you had to remove a die from a mechanic that forces you to remove a die face,
Right.
that the weight of the die
Right.
would mess
It
that
never
up.
came
so
up.
Never
Like-
came
like
up,
I
but
never
we were
rolled
concerned about
it.
weightiness on each side. So
I did, and I feel gypped.
Well, you would have had a nice red icon.
Well,
looking
it took
at
three.
you.
It took 3 rolls to get that
Right.
sure.
empty side to roll up.
You know, you already saw the player board once, but just to kind of show it off because now we're in components, you know, it honestly, it explains everything extremely well, I think.
Very good.
Here's the reset for the dice. You put these faces on your dice, like fantastic. This is a little confusing, but it's just explaining how all the weird side upgrades and everything works right here and everything, and then what everything does. Like, just a fantastic player aid.
And then on the
Now-
other side, there are recommended tile setups, and then there's random tile setups. So it gives you some rules for that
Although
to follow as well.
I'm not sure who mentioned, I think we all did. Like they splurged on these trays, which are fantastic. There's 2 aids.
Right, so that's what I was about to say. So it
Maybe
goes up
because
to-
they'd be too big, like it would take up a
No.
lot of space.
nah.
I needed the
we're-
aid for both games that I played.
Yeah, you need
I'm
that
more of a
aid,
visual-
so I don't know why they didn't include 2. It's just whatever you want to call the paper stock or
yeah.
Yeah,
Card
just a
stock.
thicker card,
card
stock.
stock.
Thicker
It's-
card stock.
Yeah.
It goes into exactly how I kind of sum up this game. We're in components and everything, but like really nice player aid that's done weird. Like nice player aid, but only 2. You know, nice where's that little setup tile?
Oh,
that
right
was in
here.
the middle. Yeah, nice setup tile that helps. Only 1?
Yeah.
Like
It was in front of Tim the whole game, and I'm like looking over at.
Yeah. And I'm like,
his-
stop looking, you're winning.
Yeah, yeah.
and you're gonna see that being a theme as we get into the later final thoughts and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
like, oh, this is nice, but weird.
Execution
Like
was strange. It's
Yeah. So
like you got a layup, but you went for like a reverse-handed hook shot.
yeah.
Before we get to this,
But
really quick.
overall, I mean, pretty solid components. They're really.
I will say, I do think, like, okay, so you guys are like, yeah, these trays are amazing and it's great. These faces, like all the white ones just came in
Yeah,
one
you
bag.
had to sort it.
Oh yeah, baby.
That's
that was
awful.
Yeah, I had some PTSD from that for a little bit.
Right, and that explains why, honestly, I would have put these here and these here, but
Yeah, I
that's
would
fine, Tim.
kill you.
That's
I was like, okay, I think I've got all of these in the right spot. And then the worst part was, I was like, I don't have enough spaces for everything, only to find out that
no.
I had some mixed up.
Oh.
So then it's like, oh, these go over here, these go over here.
Yeah.
It was-
If you are unfamiliar with the iconography, like I could probably look at all of these and understand what they do
Yep.
after my second game.
Yeah.
But if you're cracking open this box for the
Yeah.
first time and you see even these 2 next to each
Uh-huh.
other, two green with a white background, it's
Yeah, like, oh,
easy
these
to
are the
think
same.
like, oh, they're the
Well,
same.
it's
Yeah.
honestly, it's very similar to his previous game, you know, Race for the Galaxy stuff, to where it looks insanely overwhelming and daunting. And then once you learn it, you're like, oh, this iconography makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we have, like you said, I would say I have 99% of the iconography down after 2 games. Like, it's very intuitive, and I do think it is easier to understand than Race for the Galaxy with like, oh, well, this planet has a green halo around it, so that's different than a green circle that has a yellow halo around it.
Oh,
Like,
right.
I think this is more intuitive. I think that was an
Yes.
upgrade for him. No insert, though, because of this.
Correct.
Right?
That is essentially the insert.
Right?
Yep.
So yeah, bags for the tiles and these for all the things, and then the dice, I guess, just put in the
Yeah.
bag.
I didn't even think about having to sort this. Stay tuned for an upcoming video, Sorting Dice Realms, the mini game.
Right.
Accidentally dropping dice realms.
Oh my
The
God.
Yeah.
minigame.
And
Don't store on the
and
side.
the subsequent suicide.
The B-roll of all the times we had to
I've
pick
heard-
up faces from the floor.
I've heard some crap on the forums and stuff. I love this cover.
Same here.
I love it. That
Yeah.
idea of
It's
the
nice.
3D growing.
It does look
that's
cool.
that Game of Thrones look where they're like growing out of the side of the dice. I love that.
Well, that's
look
because
so
the
much.
die faces actually represent like your serf, your
Right.
farmer, your planter, your dukedom, your city, your workshop, your
Right.
mine.
Which workers are working that day? Because you have an extremely lazy city, and it's like, listen, only the farmers.
Only
are
one out
working
of 6
today.
of us are working today, buddy.
Yeah.
And you're rolling to find out who.
And then finally, Tim, rulebook.
Oh boy, rulebook kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, when you can find the explanation, most of the time it's pretty good. We literally had to stop everything for a good 10 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes.
while
yeah.
we tried to figure out to see if we were doing the end game trigger correctly.
Talk about the most
Well,
weirdly worded sentence any of us had ever seen.
The problem is the setup has a fact that infers itself at the end of the rule book that says these 10 pieces here, they do not go into the pool of victory points or
Right. Right, that you
that
resources.
you have to build.
You have to infer that these, like, that initial setup point applies to the end game condition. And it's like, if we didn't look that up, we would have still been
Well,
looking.
and it wasn't in the rule book. We had to find. You found it on the forum. I was looking up YouTube videos,
Yeah,
like
you
scrolling
found
to
the
the end.
designer
Go to the end.
himself answering the
Yeah.
question, which means that this is a global problem that people
Yeah,
are having. That the
correct.
designer had to be like, this is
And
what
it's
that
really
means.
something so easy. When you run out of one of your one of these 3 resource pools, triggers game end.
Right.
It's that easy.
But the way it was worded
It's
was
not like that.
ambiguous.
if you
at
need
best.
to trade out a piece, it's like, what do you mean need to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But once we understood that, like, that was so frustrating to me that I did something I rarely do. Now, this game does play quickly, which was fine. But, we're on a time constraint. We're trying to film a bunch of stuff. But I was like, guys, let's just play this again. And
Right.
we
Yeah.
randomized the tiles. But, I mean, also to be fair to the game, there's enough different tiles that the starting setup is almost a little vanilla.
Sure.
So we just did the rando setup because instead of doing one of their suggested ones, which probably would have been fine, I just wanted to see what a random one looked like. And then we played it again. And with understanding of everything, it still played
30,
very
45
quickly.
minutes, yeah.
And it was a much better experience once we understood all of the rules,
Mm-hmm.
at least we were all felt like we understood the rules.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we all confidently ended the game at the same time.
Correct.
That being
Right.
said,
Even though
it
we
seemed-
might still be wrong.
Otherwise, it seemed like a pretty easy game to learn.
Right.
There was just some clarity issues in the book that were frustrating. But
Yes.
it's a very easy game to learn.
Correct. But again, right? Know what triggers the end game. One of your resources runs out, whether it is wheat, negative victory points, or regular victory
Right.
points.
And the reason it words it weird is because when it runs out, you don't lose out on points you would have gained. You then trade out for a 10,
10
which
piece.
causes endgame. It's a very basic system. It's been in a lot of games, but the wording and the understanding of that is
Yeah.
like, what are you trying to say here?
Yeah.
Right, because
We passed this book around to every single player, and each one read it.
and
went,
we're well
"Huh."
versed in
Yeah,
how games
right.
in how games end.
well, what's crazy is like so I'm doing like the common pool setup, and I'm like, hey Dan, 18 victory points per player, right?
Right.
So Dan's building the pool, but he's doing it economically and not throwing all the 1s and 2s in. So he's using some 10s and some
Yeah.
stuff, and then it's like Mike's sitting over here with like 2 10s, and it's like, holy crap! Should the game
game
have
is
ended
over?
like 3 rounds ago?
Yeah.
And that was not the case. We needed to actually run out of the actual, the victory
Right.
point
Right.
pool.
Right.
And because
But
of how
now we
it was
know.
explained,
Exactly.
we,
Yeah.
we didn't know if we triggered the
Oh.
end game.
And
or
now
not.
that we know, if you read the sentence, this is like where proofreading and stuff comes in, where you hand it to someone who does not know the game and they read through the rule book. Because now that I understand that rule, I can read the end game and be like, if players need XX chips this round, the game ends. Otherwise, the game ends even if after needing one of these 10 chips, more will return to the pool. That now makes perfect sense.
Right.
But you have to understand
But-
the rule to understand that
But
wording
without
of
that
it.
context, it means not. It's
Right.
gobbledygook.
It's weird. It's
Yeah.
a weird wording, even
But-
still.
Anyway, that now kind of leads into final thoughts, I think.
Yes. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts!
Okay, guys, we're all going to give our final thoughts before we give it a rating. Who wants to go first?
I'm willing to.
All right, Dan,
Sure.
do it. Do it.
So a lot of little things, because honestly, throughout explanation and components, we were throwing our opinions in there already because there was so much to talk about
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
So just a couple extra things that I want to mention is I don't feel like the Fate die is strong enough. I would almost be willing to roll it twice, you know,
And
for the
also,
thing.
I will throw the caveat out there that it's not always clear on what die face to replace.
I bet that's in the rules. It's
Right.
got to be somewhere.
I mean,
yay, nay?
is it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
'Cause
You
we
keep
looked-
talking. I'll look for a second. I'll
We
look
looked,
for 1
yeah.
minute.
But there are like the plague, there's like a plague one that tells you specifically which die faces to remove. Like it tells you to remove innovation and maybe the robber or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, please continue.
Sure. I just even if we took away, you know, one of the positive ones and put on. See, I'm just wondering if, you know, you take away the 2 attack one and swap out for an attack one, right? But regardless, even if we replace the one of the nice ones like upgrade your wheat, it just wasn't happening enough for me to feel like it was a strong enough mechanic. I just wanted more of a fight, which goes into one of my other complaints, which actually I never have. I'm looking forward to talking about this because recently we reviewed It's a Wonderful World, and a couple people were like, I wanted one more round. You know, the game felt too
Yeah.
short. I wanted one more round. I never have that feeling. This game feels too short to me. And I feel like making the game slightly meaner to where you're losing more wheat, you're losing more faces, and you're fighting against that will lengthen the game slightly, you know, because you're having to recoup from more losses. And I actually think that would help me with that problem too. So I would look into that for my own personal games because I just don't feel like it's mean enough. There were so many times where it was just like, oh, okay, you know, oh, the red die, cool. Barely, even some of the negative
Yeah.
ones. Okay, I'll lose this die that I didn't care about this round and activate these 3 dice that are
I
amazing.
will say though, as somebody in the first game who could only had the
Sure.
starting 2 die, that lose 1 die was devastating multiple
yes.
times.
Which goes into, you know, whether people are going to find as a negative or not. You know, obviously, dice rolling game, random,
Yeah.
right? Now, it is obviously manageable, manipulatable. You know, you're the whole point of games like this is you're changing the die faces and building up like a tactic that I always do in these games. Doesn't always work out. I think I came in 3rd the first game and maybe 3rd the second game.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But I always like, so you start with the 2 dice, right? A white and a black one. And I usually instantly will remove, so like I'll remove the wheat from this and turn this into a coin die, and I'll remove the coin from this and turn this into a wheat die, right? And then I'll start upgrading, and I kind of build these 2 separate engines. Rather than a jack of all trades, I like having these specialized dice, right? And then if I get a 3rd die moved in here, I'm like, okay, this one will be, you know, my upgrade die or my defense die,
Well, maybe
right?
that's why you need more time because that strategy seems very
Sure,
slow.
that, you know, that could be
like
that could
slow
be it too.
developing, but with high reward. Right.
And that could be too. But anyway, that's one thing for me. This also, like, I think you got 1, Mike, right? At one point, you never even got the 1?
No.
Okay. Oh, no, you had your die get destroyed. That's what happened to you. But these whole negative point things just weren't coming in, which, again, I just felt like this is my biggest thing is just if this was meaner, it would fix a lot for
Right.
me with my little nitpicky things.
But fortunately, since this is probably one of the most customizable games out there,
Right.
you can make this game as mean as you want.
Sure.
You could make it a full winter
Hell
mode
yeah.
where it's just you don't even roll the die because it's always winter.
Sure.
And you just I guess that's what I like about it is you can kind of make it your own.
I love
make it your own
that
game.
the theme here is actually strong. Like, you think like this kind of, you know, abstract kind of die system, but these things actually do a really good job of getting theme if you pay attention. The Savitar and the Blacksmith is nice. I pointed out one tile that is called War, and it
right.
changes a lot of the stuff on here to where they're not winter and they're not seasons anymore, but they are soldiers and knights and stuff like that, and it adds heroes to here. So then you are hiring heroes to fight off a battle rather than hiring workers to fend off a season. That is a fascinating thematic thing that you can just change on this game. Great job with all that. So again, what we were talking about, cool, little fiddly, right? We were talking about that earlier. So here's the coin mechanism. So the most I saw someone get, I think, was 9 coins.
I had
10.
You had 10.
at
Okay.
times, yeah.
So, hey, look at that, the max. So that's nice. But here's the thing. You lose your coins each round. So let's say I get 6 coins, and I slide this thing up to 6.
Yep.
I then instantly spend those 6 coins and move it down. What was the point of me tracking this? I never felt like that was important at all. I never felt that
I
way.
agree with you, but there are probably some players that will be
Sure.
so.
Yeah, and
I
said,
needed it every
you like
round.
stuff
I
like
needed
that.
it every round. Yep.
Yeah, and that's why he does it, and that's clever. I just felt like, weird. You know, same thing with every round. You have this default coin, so if you spend that, you flip it to the 0
I
side.
never did that.
Never. Useless. I just
flipped
feel,
mine
you know?
once, and I was like, why did I do
Yeah,
that?
because then you instantly flip it back over.
Yeah.
So, there's just a lot of stuff that's like, I see why it's there. Because this was probably play tested a lot, and someone said, oh, how do I know if I spent this or not? And so he was like, okay, I'll just put something on the other side. So
Print
people
it on the
care
other
about
side.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not like it's that expensive, right? So overall, I'm sure I'll say some small things in my final scoring, but overall, I would just describe this as a fun, actually pretty thematic game for me with so many customizable options. You can really suit this game to what you want to do at any given playtime with a lot of just weird fiddly decisions thrown in that everything you say goes, that's nice, but weird. Oh, I really like that, but it's kind of strange. Oh, that's good, but not done as perfect as I would have thought. You're like, every sentence ends with that, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm falling, like, feeling-wise, I guess.
Yeah.
Andrew, are you ready, or do you have more rules that you need to check out?
I'm just like glancing at sentences every now and then, and like I don't actually see that. I don't see it in there. I'll read it later.
I didn't either. I mean,
Yeah.
I tried to find it and could not.
Yeah.
So what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, so I thought it was a great game. I actually really liked it. I think it's like, it's a Rio Grande game. Rio Grande. It feels like if Dominion had like a
Was good.
like a hot cousin or something.
Yeah.
You know, like you laid out a custom. What
Oh, just
If
like the
Dominion had a
analogy.
hot cousin.
would you prefer, an ugly cousin?
No.
Okay, good. It kind of feels like it. You lay out your custom start to the game. There's so many options like Dominion, except this is the dice modification version of Dominion. And
Yeah, because the victory point cards clog up your hand, just like the victory point die faces can clog up
Exactly.
your rolls.
yeah,
Unless you build an engine around it, like we did last game.
Yeah.
yeah, with the sheep.
Yeah.
Yep, sheep were cool. This was exactly what you said. Awesome, but that's crazy. Like cleanup, this is daunting for me. I know you said like, oh, you just have to reset all of your die, but that's 12 times 4. That's 48 times of removing something and putting
Right.
something back on. Now that's standard with a 6-sided die modification game. It's going to come with that. But like, I can't imagine opening up that original bag.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah, that's
there
rough.
is a lot of commitment to this game, but once you get it set up, this is so much fun. There's a couple quirks, like what Mike said. Why are there only 2 player age
Yeah.
sheets? I don't resonate with the like, why do I need to put that there? Because that just helps me visualize it.
Sure.
And the conversion chart on there is really good, right?
Yes.
Like what you can spend your
Yeah,
money on
definitely.
is really handy.
Do need that.
But that wasn't your gripe. Your gripe was the one, flip it over to a 0.
I guess it's
and then
another way to
tracking the
make
money on there.
this more useful. You may
Yeah.
not use it, but the conversion chart
Right, and
is
again,
rec-
I don't know if
required.
it came across, but I did try to mention, I don't hate that it's there because there is going to be
Yeah.
someone out there that finds it useful.
But it's worth pointing
and
out.
it's not like it's that expensive. I
Yeah.
just felt, again, it's one of those nice, weird.
Yeah.
It's just one of those.
Yeah, fair.
I had a great time playing this
Yeah.
game, and I feel like if this were shown to maybe 10 more new people in the end stages of development to just iron out some of those awkward, like, oh, but you could have done that, just to make it a little bit more understandable. Like the end game in the rule book, that was terrible. Only 2 player aids, that was terrible. Only 1 helper tile, that was terrible. But surrounding that is a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Theme 10, immersion of theme 0. Like to have immersion with dice. Like why do I randomly have?
Right.
Why do I randomly have a barony or however you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then I
today.
can roll it, and why do I randomly have a county now? Like that doesn't really make sense to me.
Right.
But the world that they're building around it is fantastic.
Yeah.
So you got to chug through it, and your second game will be way better than your
Yeah.
first game, at least for people who might struggle with understanding how the game ends.
Right, which is why videos like this exist.
Yeah. So I had a great time. And I'd love to play it again. I think this is something that even me and my wife would enjoy
Yeah,
playing.
right on.
So
Right on. That's usually a good sign for me.
yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I like this one quite a bit. It's fun to play. I mean, it's enjoyable seeing your dice start with these basic faces, and then by the time you get to the end of the game, I mean, I had 2 fully decked out dice here, and it was like I had no losers on it. It was like every die is something awesome happening every time. I didn't get that feeling of it being too short, though, Dan.
No, I know. And that's just weird for me because I almost never get that, and I got it with this one.
I get that with Dice Forge, which is very clearly
Not his hot cousin.
It's the family.
it's the not his hot cousin. Yeah, there you go. It was the inspiration for this,
Right.
very clearly. But in Dice Forge, to me, it's like by the time I got the faces on the dice that I wanted, I got to roll them once and I was done with them.
Oh, sure.
And it's like I always felt like it was 2 rounds short. I did not get that feeling here. I felt like this game. Actually, I felt like the pacing and timing was almost perfect. I really felt like I had my engine going. I was rolling it. I was getting the faces I want. And I had the highest upgrades on several faces. And I get to roll them multiple times. So if my engine gets to proc like I want it to, I feel like the timing is good.
Yeah.
So I did not have that feeling.
And the power
here.
levels, like even it's not uncommon to get a lot of level 4 max level sides of your die.
Multiple.
Like it never felt like, oh, I can't upgrade my stuff.
It's very
like, man, I got some
accessible.
powerful stuff here.
My one last point I definitely want to mention, and maybe Tim, I'm stealing some of his thunder. The very first game we played, I bought a green die early, and the green die has all victory point counters on it. I upgraded half of those faces all the way up to 4 victory point counters, and every time I re-rolled, I would re-roll that die.
Oh, sure.
So I got that to hit 4 times. I gained 16 victory points from this die because it had a 50% chance of getting me 4 victory points, and I steamrolled the first game.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
I was gonna just bring it up slightly when I gave my final score.
It
That
wasn't
is the
close.
scariest mechanic for
I
me.
think there's a lot of replayability here because there's a lot of different sets and there's lots of tiles that can come out. But man, getting the green die early and upgrading those faces was insanely powerful.
Well, plus when you want to, you always hear in these kind of games, you want to eliminate your victory points early so that you can get more stuff early resource-wise to
Right.
build. But this game is so quick that before you know it, all of those victory point things you actually want back because
Right.
the game is over so quick.
Right.
So I
you
prevented
almost don't want to
myself
get
from
rid
doing
of the
that.
green faces as much as upgrade them, right?
Yeah.
So that they're more useful, which is kind of what Mike's strategy was.
Yeah.
I also feel like that opening suggested layout, like for the tiles and everything, did nothing to punish you for that. You know what I mean? Where like the saboteur, it's like, well, I can't spend all my time. I've got to actually worry about some defense here and there.
Yeah.
You know. But again, and I will save some for my thoughts, but please continue.
No,
and I'll finish.
that
with-
was really it. It was worth bringing up that green die seems very powerful, and I don't know if there is a layout here that could change that. And replayability is a very important factor on all of my ratings.
I bet there is a land tax tile in there. Like
Right.
if you show a green tile, pay a corn or pay a wheat or something
there
like
is,
that.
so-
It is so strong. I would go so far as to say the second someone buys a green die, you need to immediately start thinking about when you're going to buy a green die.
Yeah, because there's only 4 in the game.
Yeah, so there's only one for each player, but anyone can buy any number. So if one person buys 2 or 3 of them and you're locked out, that's crazy.
Find something else to do.
Find something else to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ways you can try to win and do things. But I will
Tim,
say,
your final thoughts.
yeah, I'm going to agree with Dan. I think then if it doesn't, my recommendation, if you want a more difficult game, because this doesn't say what to replace. And I think when we were watching, like I watched a Rado video to try to learn how to play it. They had popped off a winner die and replaced one of the bad faces with that. And so that's what I had done when it didn't say anything. And I think what I would do is actually remove one of the nice ones, right? Like either the good harvest or the innovation, and replace that with the saboteur. So now instead of having, you know, a 20% chance of something good, you know what I mean? It's only a 10%, you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Just make it harder, right?
Oh, okay. I like that you can tweak that though. That's
Make it more aggressive. Yeah, no, that is a positive, right? Because I do feel like Dan made a really good point earlier, which was terrifying, was the you don't. The games we played, we did not really. We probably wasted some time trying to defend against this when this didn't hurt us
Stocking
as much.
up on loads of wheat for winter. Yeah.
I will say that this is a game that if you know somebody who knows how to play it, get them to teach you your first time. You will have a better time having this taught to you. Thankfully, like we all knew we were going to review this. I think all of us had kind of watched a little bit of a video or two or here, there, like looked at the rules.
Yeah.
So we had the benefit of not coming in like totally cold, but there were still obviously questions because the rule book is less than spectacular. It does. I feel like to use like a Star Trek kind of reference, like this got beamed over from someplace else and it just got a little scrambled somewhere.
The fly.
Yeah, that's probably even a better one, right? So like, it's all there. All that DNA is there. It's just rearranged in weird ways, sort of in the rule book.
I recognize it as a rule book.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not sure it's 100% DNA of rule book.
Right. Yeah. There's a little brindle in there. But I had a fantastic time playing this. I wasn't even frustrated the first time. I lost terribly. Actually, I came in last by 1 point. Dan had 1 point more than me. But when we all played again, I think all of our scores improved. Well, nobody's score was that low. And then Dan,
mine was way worse because I'm like, I won't go green die strategy. This guy, the guys, I swear.
Yeah. But
it was terrible.
I didn't go.
At one point, he slotted a 4 on a green 4 on one of his dice. He went, Dan.
But nobody. I don't think anybody ran like green die crazy, right? Did you have more than one? Did you have two?
So when I saw the sheep give you victory points based on when you roll if you have any green faces showing.
Yeah.
So I said, let's gobble up as many green as possible. So then every time I roll, I've got something there.
So, but
I had
you
two.
might have
I
had
had
two.
And
I
you
had
one.
And I had one.
Dan
and
had
I only
one.
lost you by 2 points.
Correct.
So I ran a different strategy without rushing the green die totally. We were still kind of doing like a similar thing.
Yeah.
I was still also probably badly trying to defend against this.
Yeah.
This die. But still, like, I don't feel like, oh, that strategy was so terrible.
I will say, though, the first game, you're the one that didn't have a green die, right?
Correct. I only had the 2
I will
die.
say, though, correlation is not causation. But the first game, Tim came in last. He was the only one that didn't have a green die. The second game, Mike came in last. He was the only one that didn't have a green die.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
Maybe
they
that's
are a
feature,
valuable resource.
not a
Not
bug.
saying, just
and
saying.
again, I didn't see anywhere in the rule book that says you can't have more than 1 green die.
Right. Well, who knows where that DNA is?
But it could be on like a weird page with an addendum in a box somewhere. So the rule book is detrimental to my experience. But once we understood and knew how to play the game, it's like, wow, the possibilities are endless. I would personally love to play through every one of these scenarios and see what they are and also do the random ones, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 preset. And then there's like these setups here, so 15 total. Add lots of attacks, tend to slow the game. Don't try them until you're experienced and in the mood for player conflict. Because there are die faces you can add to your own die to attack your friends and neighbors.
Yes.
Well, soon to be not friends. So I mean, there's just a world of possibilities. Obviously, so much room for expansions. I think that's something we like to mention here. You know what I mean?
No question.
It'd be just a couple of tiles and a bag of die faces that'll give you nightmares to sort with maybe some trays, extra trays to put them in too.
New minigame.
Yeah, a new minigame that is terrible. But yeah, so I think that covers it for final thoughts. Dan,
We're
gonna give us a
the way we're gonna
rating.
rate this.
How do we do that?
Yeah, there it is. So we're each going to give our own opinion of a 1 through 10 rating scale. We do use 0.5s to give it a little bit more variation so we don't all say the same numbers, less often. Then at the end of the video, we're going to average them all together and give you one score so that places like Discord, Board Game Geek, it's just easier to have a board game rundown umbrella score rather than all of us have individual ones. But in case you might agree with Tim on more games, he will give his own personal score as well.
Yeah. Who's going to do our average
do it.
first? You going to do it since Bob's not
Yeah,
here?
Bobby.
Well, let's just go in. Let's go in the same order we did for final thoughts, since you're having to look at your phone and get
thanks,
stuff set up. I'll throw you under that bus.
So, yes, I I am very interested in seeing how the red die changes the thing for me, and I'm worried about the green die. Those are my only two really big takeaways, and I'm actually going to do something I don't normally do as well, and I'm going to slightly change my rating based on if this game was slightly harder. Would I enjoy it more or less, right? And I would enjoy it slightly more. So I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I usually say in videos, oh, hey, I'm judging the game I played, right? But for some reason for this one, just like how for this one I wished it was a little longer, and I usually don't feel that way. This game's just, again, it's good but weird. It's affecting me in places that games don't usually affect me.
I'm actually just watching him stack.
Yeah, no,
I have not heard a
that
thing
is
you've
totally
said.
fine. You're not supposed to. So
It's gonna end badly.
at the end of the day, though, I'm going to give this game
How many
an
dice out of 10 on
8.
Tim's stack?
I'm going to give Dice Drums an 8. I love this system. When I first played Dice Forge, I was like, more games need to do this. I've seen it in a couple small things here and there, but this is the next big one that was like, hey, let's make this less of like a family weight game. Let's make it a little bit more thinky, you know? And I think they did a great job. I want to play it again, like right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it an 8.
Right on.
8 would be an 8.5 if all of those problems were ironed out. Give me more player sheets, player aids. Give me more of those helper tiles that go through the round with me.
Yes.
And the cleanup is still giving me I'm like worried about
Well,
that.
it's really
Just-
weird because as soon as we turn the cameras off, we're all going to walk out of the room and leave Andrew in here to clean this up.
Yeah.
Well, I felt bad after our first game because I really had to go to the bathroom, and then I was like, "This is a beast to clean up." So I was valiant. I held it and I helped clean up.
Yeah, only a minor puddle.
I really don't. I
Minor
really don't
puddle.
mind it.
It's
If-
not that bad.
Yeah, the cleanup and the accessories, the I guess you could say
Accoutrement.
yeah, the stuff around it is my only reason I'm bringing it down to an 8. That's because that's how much fun I had playing this game. It was so short that I do want to play it again. Like, I would love to see all of those interactions and make my own combos for these tiles that set up the game. They've given so much content. I could see this being, like we were talking about Dominion earlier, I could see this having 10 expansions, and you just keep everything you modify, and that bag is so big. You're basically asking for expansions.
I love that with the system they built, there could be thematic expansions. Like, it's like, oh, this is the Black Plague expansion. It adds tiles and stuff and die faces that are all themed around surviving the plague and stuff, right? Like, that stuff is awesome to me.
Well, and you saw that even, I hate to keep saying Dominion, but there were like you could upgrade your champion to like from common citizen to hero, and there were very thematic tiles that added more to the game, and I want to play this game more. I don't know how it would play with 2 people.
Right.
I'm even trying to think of drawbacks, but I had a blast playing with 4 people, and it was so fast. Great game. 8.
Yeah. Mike.
Yeah, I like this game quite a bit too. It is a lot of fun to play, and there is a ton of replayability here, and it has very useful trays, and you can set up every game different. And it's fulfilling. I mean, just upgrading those dice and getting one die with all the max upgrades on it and rolling that die every time.
Feels good.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable, and they're big, chunky dice. I am legitimately also concerned about that green die. And when there's that one overbearing strategy that you can't avoid, it takes the feeling of choice away from the game.
When there's a Loki strategy.
there's a legitimate concern about that, but I have so much fun playing it. I'm not going to let the 2 player aids that I would, if I bought, just make copies of. I'm not going to let that bother me, and I will give this an 8.5. I think it deserves it because it's very fun to play. It's enjoyable, and it builds as you go. There's fun combos to be had. I'm considering going out and getting my own copy.
I love it.
It's that good.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's an 8 for me. I think all the same reasons. I do think that the having somebody teach you how to play this would help everybody's experience. And the rule book being a little clunky is a big enough negative. But I feel like again, we come back in a year, we review this again, and we've played through a bunch of these. Like this could be an 8.5 or a 9. I don't think my enjoyment is going to go down. I think it is only going to go up, and I really, really, really hope they do expansions for this because there's a lot of excellent potential in here. And we saw 10 different tiles. No, 11 different tiles, right?
Yeah, with the blacksmith.
And there's a ton more in here.
And they're all going to combo together differently.
Yeah.
That's
so
some will
cool.
make the game end really quick, and some will drag the game out.
Yeah.
So
Dan will get his wish.
Yeah. And together that gives us, let's see the point here. Together that gives us right there. The spinning wheel lands on an 8.1.
8.1. I mean, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah, it's a solid game.
It's really good. I'm really happy. The rule book and the setup and everything seemed really intimidating to begin with, and it was easy to kind of put off doing this. But I'm really glad that we committed
well, there's also
doing
not
it.
a whole lot of content out there for
Correct.
it. So trying to learn from, like, I'm a video learner. I'll read the rule book, but I learn much better watching someone teach and then play it. Like, I will watch a hour-long video of a playthrough of a game, and I'll learn it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I understand now. And then I'll read
there
the
has
rule
to be
book.
that person first, though.
Exactly.
Who,
So, yeah.
And I did just put away like majority of the game
Try to
just
save
to
it for
demonstrate how like it's not that bad. Once it's organized and everything, it's really not that
There you
bad
go.
to put
The
away.
rest gets bagged.
Yeah. So that's it.
If you're still with us, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
Hey, there he is. There he is.
Sitting in Bob's seat.
Yeah, there you
you
go. You just get this overwhelming feeling.
I do. I'm going to start growing my hair out, too.
Oh, yeah, please.
Very luscious.
All right, guys.
Great game.
So,
Great game.
so this has been Dice Rounds, and for the board game rundown, I've been Tim.
I've been Mike.
Andrew.
Dan.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for checking out the Board Game Rundown. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share our videos on social media and spread the word. We publish new content weekly, including reviews, unboxing, and Let's Plays. And as always, thanks for watching.